So the seminar that I'm going to be teaching, the seminar that I'm going to be working on is really all about those sorts of things. How to build colors up in layers, how to do stuff with how to create painterly techniques in a tattoo that are non-traditional. And I'm going to be focusing a lot on how that affects doing cover-up work in particular. Because the biggest thing that's different, and it's completely different, about working in layers in a tattoo versus doing a painting is that with a painting, of course, your layers are literally physically on top of each other. With any tattoo, no matter what it is, you're always working into the same layer of skin. You know, that amount of pigment is all held in the same layer of skin. So, like I tell people all the time, the even the term cover up is really misleading because you can't just cover that old tattoo. And 90% of the photographs that we see of cover up tattoos online, they're misleading as well. Even the ones that I post of my own work are misleading because when you have that old tattoo, all of the pigment from the old tattoo sits in the second layer underneath the surface of the skin. When you put that new layer in, bam, that ink is saturated not only into that second layer underneath, but it saturates into the top layer above it as well. And that top layer appears to completely cover up the old ink that's underneath here. But what you're actually doing when you do that is this layer is going to peel off when it heals. And what you're actually creating underneath is a blend of the new pigment with the old pigment. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand color blending in pretty much the same way that a painter understands color blending in order to really effectively do cover-up work. So, like, the simplest example is that, like, someone comes in and they've got this black tribal thing that they got back in the 90s. In their mind, it's black. And in a lot of tattooer minds, it's just black. But if you actually look at that pigment in the skin, it's pretty gray most of the time. I mean, unless that tattoo is only 3 or 4 years old and been done really well by a professional, that ink is pretty gray, and it's often really not fully saturated. A traditional tattooer would say, well, you can't put yellow on top of black. And that's true only if your expectation is that by putting yellow on top of black, you're going to get yellow. Mm-hmm. Because of course you're not. But if you can take that old black and turn it into a leaf, and you pack yellow on top of that old black, and you know, because you understand painting and how that blending works, you know that yellow and the black together are going to heal up to like some sort of an organic muted looking green, then you can use that to your advantage. You can use a lot of different colors to lighten up the old pigment that's underneath. You can also use a lot of texture to camouflage the old texture of the tattoo. And that's one of those places where I think that traditional approaches to tattooing fail the most when it comes to doing cover-up work. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Because you have to think outside of the box, and you have to think about all the different ways that you can lighten up the old tattoo work, but also all the different ways that you can kind of trick the eye and fool the eye, and you have to be aware of negative space in the old tattoo. I think in particular, that's something that especially gets forgotten. I've seen people get like, they have like a thin line of script, for example, that's just lettering that they want to have covered up. And an artist who's not aware of negative space is likely to look at that lettering as its own single shape and just block it out with a big block of dark color. When really most of that lettering is the open space between the lines, and it's all empty skin. that empty space is opportunity to put lighter colors into. Um, Using texture in your design. Um,